All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. Thank you for joining me of this segment of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Today's featured book is Brave Ballerina by Michelle Meadows, illustrated by Ebony Glenn. It is the true story of Janet Collins, a young Black dancer in the 1950s who had to face so many challenges in order to get to that big stage, okay? On this episode of the Teacher Lady Show Behind the Book, I will be going over the glows, what I think was done well, the grows, what I think could have been done differently, who this book is for, how to utilize it as a resource to have more robust conversations with your little one, and more, all on a segment of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. You ready? Let's grow. Summary in my own words. Brave Ballerina is the story of Janet Collins, who is a Black dancer from both New Orleans and Los Angeles in the 1950s, okay? It is the story of her desire to dance and perform despite the ongoing challenges of discrimination, of racism, financial challenges her family might have faced, and so on and so forth. So it truly is this reminder that our dreams are our dreams for a reason, and that we inevitably will face obstacles, many of which are unfair, but if we move past them, something beautiful and magical might happen anyway. Take home message and target age group. The take home message of this story is that if you want to do something great in your life, you are going to have challenges, and you should and can push past those challenges anyway. The author did an excellent job at truly letting us see the visual story of Janet Collins, a girl who loved dance, dreamed about it, lived for it, was excited about it. And it takes us through the challenges that she had. So the take-home message is definitely persevere. Definitely move past the obstacles. And I would even say it has a take-home message of hope, that if you keep going, you might just land exactly where you want to. In terms of age group, I would say 6 years old and up, you can really start to have a conversation of the story. The illustrations themselves definitely will help with children who are neurodivergent or English language learners, because the visuals match so perfectly with the words on the page. I would say overall, 6 years old and up will be able to hold a discussion around this story. Who this book is for, or who should add it to their home library. The first is young Black girls. Anytime you have a story that highlights somebody who is often marginalized and left out, to give that same story to a child that reflects that identity is always going to be special. So if you have a young Black girl in the home, in the classroom, whoever that might be watching it, this is an excellent resource for them, even if they don't want to dance. The second I would say is for dancers. I feel like any art, dance, poetry, acting is going to come with so many challenges. It is going to be hard to get exactly where it is you want to be, but it's not impossible. And the story of Janet Collins truly reminds us of that. It is a reminder to keep dreaming and to keep doing. So if you have an artist in your family or in your classroom, this is also an excellent book for them. And then the last person that I would would say, is truly a historian. So for me, I gravitated towards the story because I didn't know about Janet Collins, and there's so much history that we don't get to learn about. And her story was brought to light because of this book, which excited me. It excited me to know of another story of this young Black woman who was determined to get exactly where it is she felt like she was supposed to be. And I really also enjoyed the fact that she was given ways to alter herself in order to be able to dance because her talent was undeniable. So even people who didn't want her because she was Black still wanted her talents. They may have not wanted her, but they still wanted her talents. And so there were tons of offers for her to alter her skin or her body in order to fit what was considered the norm at that time. And she didn't do that. And so this book would also be a beautiful gift to the person who loves to learn about stories, who loves to learn about history. So definitely check this book out and add it to your classroom library or your home library. Glows and what I think was done well. There are multiple glows in this book. I really, really enjoyed it. As soon as I read it, I reached out to the author. One of the glows is bringing attention to stories that often we don't learn about in school. So Janet Collins is a historical figure. She is a game changer for Black dancers everywhere, for dancers of color everywhere. She really did kind of draw out this blueprint, even if she wasn't aware of it, of what is possible. And so one of my glows is bringing attention to a story that many of us are not familiar with. Even in the back of the book, Michelle, who was also a dancer or was at the time, as she shared in the back of the book, she did not know until way later in life about Janet Collins. So in order to keep these people alive, their stories alive, we have to share them. And so that's one of my glows. The next glow is that the author did not shy away from the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is that Janet experienced so much racism and discrimination as a result of being a Black girl. So she could dance and she was extremely talented, but the author does talk about the discrimination she faced. The author does talk about the offers that she received to alter herself to be able to be included. And I think oftentimes when we are sharing children's stories, we only want to share them in this way that's very cutesy and doesn't always share the exact truth. And I appreciate the truth even when it's painful, because our children do need to understand what has taken place in this country. And then the last glow that I will share, again, because there are so many, whenever you're doing a biography on a person, whenever you're writing about a person, whether it's a children's book or another type of book, you want to be sure to include factual background information. And so the rhyming was beautiful, but in the back of the book, I really did get to know Janet. And I love that. I love that she tied her own story as the author of the book, as a dancer and as a performer, to the story of Janet Collins, and gave us information and background on who she was and what she experienced, because it's twofold. It feels like there's this really beautifully written children's story that's poetic and written in rhyme, which is really hard to do and stay on topic. But then on the back of the book, you get to really learn more about who this book is about. And I appreciate all of that. Grows. I do not have any. The book came to do what it was supposed to do. The message was clear and the illustrations were amazing. So just more glows for you, because no grows. Ways to have a more robust discussion with your child. The first is, I would talk about, especially it being Perseverance Week, what were some of the things that Janet ended up facing in order to meet her goals and follow her dreams? And I would hold that conversation, because although your child might not, prayerfully, they're not experiencing discrimination or racism, they will be able to understand what those challenges might be in their own life. And so maybe your child plays soccer And right now they're having a difficult time kicking the ball in which they want to kick the ball, or having a hard time being able to be chosen for the team, or maybe they're struggling with the design of the uniform because it doesn't fit their body. Talk about the challenges in their own talents and their own things that they want to chase after, and compare it to the story. Use the story almost like a soundboard, or something that you can jump off of to kind of hold this conversation around what it means to push past the hardships. Side detour, but I feel like today, I do work in schools, and I feel like our students take a challenge as it's not meant for them, or they can't do it. We are really struggling to see perseverance. We're really struggling to see children have the confidence to keep going when the going does get tough. And so using this book as a resource to hold that conversation can be extremely powerful. You can also hold the conversation around the history of race and discrimination in our country. Although that wasn't the overall point of the story, it is a valuable conversation to have. Our very first week on this show, we did talk about Black history and slavery. They're not the same thing. And we go into some of the history of discrimination and segregation in that week. And so if you wanted to utilize that as a resource, you could. But I do think it's extremely powerful in the book that this beautiful, amazing, award-winning dancer in the 1950s, this was not that long ago. It just wasn't. Racism, discrimination, these are still things we're struggling with today. And so really kind of shining light and having a conversation around that, also powerful. You can have conversations around passion, perseverance, performing and dance and art. There's just so much in the story and so many ways that you can take it. I encourage you to pick it up with your little one and explore. Final thoughts. Brave Ballerina is a beautiful tribute to Janice Collins. It is not just a biography. It is a reminder that if we want to do anything in life, we're going to face some hardships, and we deserve to keep going anyway. If you need a reminder of passion, be sure to check out this book. It is located in my description box below. You can get a link and get it ordered. I also want to let you know that I am also an author and illustrator of 9 diverse books. Those books encouraged a program called the Empathy Library, which is a pay-it-forward program where people have the option to donate money, and that money purchases books, and those books get to children who need them on purpose. So I always use the example that if we had a student who needed books and they were from Honduras and loved dinosaurs, one of the books that they might receive is a hardcover children's books in Spanish on dinosaurs. Okay, so the Empathy Library is getting books to children on purpose. If you're able to, go check that out. Donate what you can, do what you can. But for now, thank you for being part of this book-loving community. I really appreciate it. On Friday, we have the Teacher Lady Speaks, where we wrap up our topic on perseverance. But until next time, remember to enjoy the moment, or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.